And like I say, from there, the war was over and we were getting ready to start training to go to the Pacific. We were one of the selected divisions. And so we started going through training. And then the war in the Pacific was over.
Yeah. Okay.
So for me personally, I didn't have sufficient points to come home. And they kind of moved me around different units that weren't coming home at that time. And so as that unit got ready to go back to the States, if you didn't have enough points, you moved to another one. And finally in December, I'm sorry, November, they came out and they gave us a chance to enlist in the regular Army for 18 months. And we could come back to the States for
30-day leave or something?
No, it was 60 or even 90.
Uh-huh.
Seemed like it was 60-day leave.
Okay.
I know it was at least 60.
Mm-hmm.
And we got the re-enlistment bonuses and whatever they were at that time.
Yeah.
So I got back in the States for that Christmas.
Okay.
And after that, when my leave time was up, I reported back to Fort Bragg, and the major in the office there where we were going in for orders and what have you, he said, "You really don't want to go back to Europe, do you?" I said, "Well, what choice do I have?" He said, "Well, I can send you Fort Benning or what have you." I said, "I'll take Fort Benning." So I went to Fort Benning.
Okay.
And I was assigned to the infantry school.
Yeah.
School troops, they called it then, I guess.
Yeah.
And I stayed at Fort Benning until 51.
Okay, now what was your job?
Well, I was with, I was an operations sergeant in the company, and we furnished the personnel from that company to supplement the problem areas that the people that were going to school there went out. The training areas, we sent personnel to operate the targets or
yeah.
play the aggressor or what have you.
Right.
And so I stayed there until 48. And they had promised us a promotion, and they couldn't fulfill it, so.
Army was too small.
Well, they said it didn't get enough quotas. So anyway, I had a choice. I either re-enlisted for the job that I was in,
right,
or to go to the drill and PT department with the infantry school. So I took that, and I stayed there until 51.
All right. Now let's stop for a second. Now, what about your family life at that point in time?
Well, I got married and met my wife and got married in 47.
Okay.
My first son was born in 48. My second son was born in 51. And that was the only two we had while we were at Fort Benning, and I left there going to Korea.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about Korea for a second. You got good duty down at Fort Benning. You got your family with you?
Right.
Okay. And then in June of 1950, I guess it was, that the Korean War broke out.
Right.
Okay. Go ahead. Could you give us a sequence of events at that point?
Well, I was in pretty good shape, I guess, with the committee I was on.
Yeah.
And most of the people they were pulling out to fill quotas were volunteers. The post would get a quota, and before they assigned anybody, they had it filled with volunteers. And being a family man, I wasn't volunteering at the time. And then we had this this general that came back, the one that was captured over there.
Bill Dean.
He came to Fort Benning,
Uh-huh.
and he said everybody that hasn't been to Korea was going. So I got on orders in September of '51.
Okay.
And when I got to Korea, we stopped off in Japan, and they pulled non-commissioned officers that had spent a winter in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
and assigned us to the 34th Infantry Regiment, which was back in back in Japan, getting re-equipped and personnel for going back and joining the 24th, which was in Korea.
Okay. Now, the 24th Division was actually they were on occupation duty in Japan
Right.
when the war broke out. So you had the 19th, the 31st, and the 34th Infantries as part, making up the 24th Division. Okay. And,
anyway, for some reason, the whole 24th Division got together in Japan.
yeah.
And so we didn't go right away.
Uh-huh.
And it looked like I was going to stay once again in Japan for a while.
Yeah.
So in '52, I put in for my family to come to Japan.
Okay.
And they joined me in the summer of '52.
Okay.
And
Now, let me stop you for a second. You were, the 24th Division had by that time gone to Korea, I assume.
no, they were still in
They
Japan.
were still in Japan?
Right.
Okay. So the first cab and the rest of those guys were over in Korea?
Right, they were in Korea.
Okay. And at some point, you were assigned as the Sergeant Major of 1st Battalion, 21st Infantry of the 24th.
Oh, that was my second tour.
Okay, that's second tour. Okay. That's
On
where I'm
on this
confused.
tour,
Okay.
I got promoted right after I got there
Uh-huh.
to Master Sergeant, and then took over as First Sergeant of the company. And then in the summer, early part of '53, I think it was May, they took our battalion and we went to Jeju-do, Korea, to guard PWs. They didn't want to pull any more troops off the line. So we were supposed to rotate after so long a period of time with one of the other battalions.
Now that's a famous POW island or something.
Right, that was where they
Yeah.
had the Chinese prisoners
Right.
on Jeju-do.
Uh-huh.
And where we were was the ones that wanted to be repatriated.
Yeah.
And on the other side of the island was the Chinese that didn't want to go back.
Yeah.
So we happened to be there at the time they started this Operation Big Switch, that the Korean War had wound down, had finished. And so we were involved in the Operation Big Switch of taking all the Chinese prisoners back to Pusan for,
Repatriation.
yeah. And then, but during this time, just before they started Operation Big Switch, it seems like the Chinese and all of them put on another big push. And they moved the rest of the 24th Division to Korea. And then it ended up, before there was really any big fighting or anything. So they put us there on temporary duty. If they'd have made it a permanent assignment, we'd have had to ship our families back home.
Yeah.
But they put us over there on temporary duty.
Right.
That way they could stay in Japan.
Right.
One of those little tricks of the trade.